What advice would you give to someone preparing to go into their final year at university?
I think firstly, like, be consistent with how much you work. So don't just wait until the last, 3 weeks before an exam to start revising. If you do a little bit every day, then, you'll realize how quickly you can improve on something. I think secondly is to get a good routine. Again, I found that really important, that I knew that I was going to start working at 9 and at 5 p.m. I'd pack away and forget about it. Again, because it's one of those things that can cause so much pressure. It was quite nice having that separation. And I also really loved studying in libraries and cafes, so not my room. Again, don't work in your room, because again, it just then becomes a place of stress for you. So again, I felt like as soon as I walked out of that library, that was me done for the day and I could actually enjoy something. So again, I think revision especially is a bit more of a marathon than a sprint. You need to have enough energy in the tank to get to the end. So otherwise, again, I kind of fell into this mistake in my second year especially. I worked so hard throughout the year in order to do well for the final exam. But then by the time I got to exam week, I was so sick. I was so tired and I couldn't keep focused. And it was just about survival that week, getting through it. But I felt like if I'd paced myself a bit better in the weeks beforehand, then I would actually have gone into the exam week feeling a bit more fresh and, ready. So again, it's all those things like sleep and eating and things like that, and how tired you are, that makes a big difference on exam days. So again, just kind of carefully planning how you're going to plan your days in order to make sure that you still have time to do the exam and actually remember well on the day. So yeah.
And you mentioned that was the experience you had in second year. Did you then make alterations for years 3 and 4?
Yeah, so in third year especially, so that was when I took the bulk of my exams. I, again, made sure I only studied in libraries and cafes, didn't go anywhere near my room. And again, I actually took evenings off. Again, I felt like I felt very guilty in the previous years for taking time off, because I was like, oh, but this is time that I should be revising. This is productive time. But again, it isn't productive time if it's 9 p.m. at night on a Saturday or something, and all your friends are doing something and you're missing out. No, you have to prioritize your well-being. And also things like exercise, I think, really helped. Forcing myself to go for a walk if I had a bit of a mental block, and not feeling pressure on, oh no, I have to stay here because I said I was going to be here. It's actually doing a 10-minute walk can make you twice as productive once you come back.
On that welfare point, I think you had something that you wanted to talk about in terms of welfare.
I think, it's an interesting question. And I think one of the kind of stereotypes of Oxford is, of course, we've talked about the workload. I think, I don't know where I read it, and I don't want to miss source or misquote, so I'm going to keep the source private. But I read that the kind of mental health has been a big kind of topic that Oxford has focused on in the last 4 years. Do you think they do a really good job of kind of looking after the well-being of students? Do you think they don't do a great job? Do you think that the Oxford lifestyle leads to difficulties with mental well-being, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a difficult question. I do feel overall, at least from my experience, they look after students well. I think it's quite hard because most people who go to Oxford are people who are used to being at the top, and they're used to being, succeeding at everything and not really having any problems. So I think when you go to a place like Oxford and you might be average, then that can be a big blow to people. And also, again, they just put a lot of pressure on themselves to work all the time and be a perfectionist. But I think the really good thing about Oxford is the college system. So, you're separated into your different college, where it's about 100 people in a year. And everyone within that college. Not only your tutors, but the porters who are basically security guards. The chaplain. I'm not religious, but the chaplain we got along well. And the cleaners who are around, all the people, all the staff and stuff. So it kind of feels like a big family, which is really nice. So it isn't like in other universities where you might be a bit anonymous. If there were days where I was, had a hard day, then someone would ask me, are you okay? You'd have people who know your face and actually say, do you need any help today, and that kind of thing. And they were also very good so we had peer supporters. We had a college counsellor. So just for my college, the chaplain was also a welfare person. There were also people who were on 24/7 duties. So if you ever needed help in the middle of the night, like if you were feeling unwell, need to go to hospital or anything, there'd be someone there in college to take care of you. There was also a university counselling service that you could call at any time, and also a phone line that you could call at any time if you needed help during the night. So again, I feel people have different experiences with that, of course, but I definitely felt like I knew where to turn if I needed help. And there was always a friendly face who would, look after you. And even, just for friends you make as well, like you make such a close-knit group of friends that I always felt like, I could go and knock on someone's door and have a chat about them and with them, and it'd be great. So yeah, I feel like, that you read those headlines and it can be quite shocking, but it doesn't really tell the whole story.
Yeah. I think the college system, from what I understand, leads itself to those, like you said, close-knit friend groups, because you've kind of, well, at least for Somerville College, I think they only take 7 PP students a year. So that's kind of 6 other people you're definitely going to be friends with, because they do the same subject as you and they'll probably be in your tutorials. And I think at bigger universities, it's quite easy to sometimes, I'm thinking about London, it's sometimes a little bit easier maybe to just get lost in kind of everything that's going on. And especially with not having that close-knit tutorial or the collegiate system, sometimes you can get a little bit kind of flustered. And I think one thing I noticed also at the Oxford Open Day is the students showing us around, and also Amelia, I think, shows that, is they're very kind of honest about their experiences. I think that's quite a difficult thing to do, because at a university like Oxford, you've basically got the best and brightest minds, and the incidence of mental health problems you would expect to be different to other universities. But actually, we've just seen the range of support they have. It definitely seems like, as a year 13 looking forward and potentially ending up at Oxford, it does not seem like I'm going to be completely alone in the fact that I'm going to be surrounded by people who are all, probably I'm going to think smarter than me. But like you said, they are just normal people, normal students like yourself. And that's quite an important thing to know, that you're going to be kind of surrounded by people who are there actually looking out for you and not just trying to get, the top grade in the finals. And I think that's a really good thing.
So I think people in the year above you who are now in their first year at university. Does that stack up to what you've heard from those? I know we're only like half a term in, but does that sound familiar?
I think definitely, yeah. I know. I think a lot of the people I've talked to who have just gone into uni have mentioned that it's a little bit like having to decide who you want to be, because you're suddenly surrounded by people who you've not known all your life. For example, I've been at the school I'm at for 9 years. So everyone knows pretty much everything about me now, including the teachers. And suddenly you're going to a place where no one knows your name, no one knows your story, and you've kind of just got to completely reinvent yourself. And I think some people kind of figure out by, October, November, that they're not actually the person that they want to be. They've kind of just become other people just to make friends. And I think that that's a really difficult place to be, because you have to be confident in saying, this is how I want to be. And if people don't like that, well, then I'm not going to be friends with them. And I think that's a really difficult thing to do.